In Poland, a speeding car crashes through a railway barrier and races across the tracks. An oncoming train passes just inches behind it. The driver misses disaster by a split second. It's a miracle nobody is hurt, but it's also a clear warning: never gamble with trains. In Washington, a 25-year-old driver gets stuck on the tracks while towing a low trailer carrying a huge Caterpillar wheel loader. He tries to move but can't. When he hears the train horn, he runs for safety. Seconds later, the train hits the trailer and sends debris flying. The crash shuts down the road for days, but amazingly, no one is hurt. A cyclist rides across a railway crossing when he suddenly hears a train horn. He has just 1 second to decide: save his bike or save himself. He jumps off and runs, and the train smashes into his bike, throwing pieces everywhere. First up, check out this huge train that suddenly flies off the tracks. It slides across the ground and comes dangerously close to a car waiting nearby. For a moment, it looks like the train will hit it, but the driver reacts fast and swerves away at the last possible second. One small move saves him from a massive disaster. In Brazil, workers were cleaning up after a train derailment when something unbelievable happened. During the recovery, they accidentally caused a second train to derail in the exact same spot. It's the kind of moment where you just shake your head and think, you had one job. Luckily, no one was injured, but the mess instantly doubled. While waiting at a railway crossing, a driver starts recording a train passing by. Suddenly, the train jumps off the rails and flips over, all because something strange was lying on the track. The woman filming steps back just in time as the huge cars topple right in front of her. It's a heart-stopping moment she'll never forget. A huge freight train carrying limestone powder suddenly leaves the tracks. The crash sends a massive cloud of white dust into the air, covering everything around it. You can barely see the cars through the thick powder. Imagine being the cleanup chief and getting that call. Yeah, everything is buried in white dust. It's a nightmare scene. At Mumbai's Churchgate station, a passenger train comes in too fast and overshoots the platform. It slams into the end buffers and lifts slightly before stopping with a hard jolt. People are shaken, but thankfully no one is injured. It's a reminder that even in big cities, one small mistake can cause a big scare. In Hungary, something goes terribly wrong. The front part of a moving train suddenly separates from the rest, and the remaining cars can't stay on the track. They derail one by one, creating a chain reaction of chaos. It's a complete mechanical failure happening in real time. A train carrying potash fertilizer derails dramatically in Kazakhstan. A car from the middle of the train breaks loose and smashes through metal structures like they're paper. It even hits a parked locomotive nearby. This is not your normal delivery mistake. This is a full-on industrial disaster scene. Near Philadelphia, 15 freight cars suddenly tip over and tumble off the tracks. Most of the cars are empty, which is the only good news, but the area is left covered in twisted metal, broken rails, and scattered debris. The cleanup team has a huge job ahead of them. Rail fans are filming an express train speeding by at nearly 70 miles per hour when a girl suddenly runs across the tracks. She makes it to the other side with only a moment to spare. Everyone watching freezes, knowing exactly how close she came to being hit. It's the kind of incident that gives you chills. A small landslide hits the tracks only hours before a scheduled train arrives. Even at slow speed, the locomotive can't avoid the debris and derails on impact. Luckily, it's a cargo train, so no passengers are hurt. It shows how even a small shift in the earth can cause big trouble for trains. On February 9, 2020, in Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania, a freight train suddenly grinds to a halt. When crews inspect the site, they find miles of dented rails, broken metal, and damaged wheels. Something major went wrong, and the train left a long trail of destruction behind it. It's a rare but serious failure. In Aurora, an RTD train takes a curve without slowing down. The train enters the turn too fast into rails, sliding off the tracks. Thankfully, no one on board suffers serious injuries, but it's a scary reminder of how important proper speed control is on every part of the rail. Back in the 1930s, people actually paid to watch staged train crashes for entertainment. Crowds gathered just to see locomotives collide in huge, dramatic wrecks. Today, you don't need a ticket. Videos of these wild crashes live on the internet, letting us see these historic spectacles from home. Maintenance teams arrive at yet another derailment scene. There are damaged wheels, broken rails, and scattered debris everywhere. Thankfully, this time, no one is hurt, but the cleanup is massive. It will take hours of hard work to repair the tracks and clear the wreckage. A train slams into a fully loaded log truck, and the impact is shocking. The logs explode into splinters and fly in every direction, while the truck barely moves. The force of the train slices through the load like it's nothing. It's a dramatic reminder of the power behind a moving locomotive. In Silla, a semi-truck gets stuck on an elevated railway crossing. The driver tries everything, forward, backward, turning, but nothing frees the truck. Hearing the train horn, he jumps out and runs. Moments later, the train destroys the entire truck, leaving only twisted metal behind. It's a total wipeout. At a busy railway crossing in Mumbai, the gates are down and the warning bell is ringing loudly. Traffic has stopped, but one biker decides to take a dangerous risk. Instead of waiting, he slips under the barrier, trying to cross before the train arrives. It's a terrible decision. Just as he reaches the tracks, the Rajdhani Express comes rushing in at full speed. At the very last moment, the biker jumps off his motorcycle. The train crashes straight into the bike, smashing it into pieces in an instant. The motorcycle is completely destroyed, but incredibly, the rider survives and walks away. This is a powerful reminder. No shortcut is worth your life. When the gates are down, stop. Trains don't stop for mistakes. At a railway crossing in the Netherlands, a large truck carrying a full load becomes stuck directly on the tracks. Before the driver can react or escape, a fast-moving train comes roaring toward the crossing. In one brutal impact, the train slices straight through the truck. Metal parts fly everywhere, and the cargo explodes across the tracks like fireworks. The scene is chaotic and terrifying. 5 people are injured, but thankfully, everyone survives. This accident proves an important lesson. Never gamble at railway crossings. Trains cannot stop quickly, but you always can. At a railroad crossing in the United States, an SUV is stuck right in the middle of the tracks. A fast-approaching frontrunner train is closing in. The horn blasts repeatedly and people nearby shout warnings, but the driver can't move the vehicle in time. Seconds later, the train slams directly into the SUV, throwing it violently off the tracks. The impact is massive, with twisted metal scattered everywhere. Miraculously, no one was inside the SUV at the moment of the crash. If your vehicle ever stalls on railway tracks, get out immediately and move far away. Cars can be replaced. Lives cannot. One moment of delay can be the difference between a close call and a fatal disaster. A woman standing near the edge suddenly faints and falls straight under a moving train. People scream, frozen in fear for a moment. It looks like the worst, but when the train finally stops, a miracle, she's still alive, lying safely between the tracks. Rescue teams pull her out and rush her to the hospital, only minor injuries. Never stand close to the platform edge. 1 second can change everything. Crowded platforms and rushing crowds create dangerous situations in seconds. When people push, panic, or stop paying attention to their surroundings, even a small stumble can lead to a serious accident. Staying calm, keeping distance from the edge, and remaining aware of moving trains can prevent irreversible tragedy. A serious accident happens at a railway crossing when a large articulated truck becomes stalled on the tracks. The massive vehicle is completely stuck. Moments later, a powerful train crashes into the trapped truck, causing extreme destruction. The footage captures the dramatic impact and clearly shows how dangerous it is to be stranded on a railway line, especially after warning signals have already activated. The flatbed truck is helpless, stopped directly on the rail line. Suddenly, the train bursts into view, huge, fast, and unstoppable. There is no time left to escape. A violent crash follows as the locomotive smashes into the truck, sweeping it aside like it weighs nothing. The train continues forward, barely slowing down. A heavy cargo truck carrying a massive load is caught completely off guard at the crossing. The freight train approaches like a wall of steel. It slams straight into the trailer, ripping through it with incredible force. The train barely slows, leaving shattered wreckage scattered across the tracks. A train arrives and passengers rush to get down. A woman steps on the ladder thinking it's safe, but the train is still moving slowly and her foot slips. She falls hard, hanging dangerously close to the gap. People scream as she's dragged along the platform. Within seconds, onlookers rush in and pull her away, saving her just in time. Never get off a moving train. Wait for a complete stop. Your life is worth the wait. Trains cannot stop instantly, and drivers may not see people in danger until it is too late. A train moving at speed needs a long distance to slow down, and one wrong step or moment of impatience can turn a small risk into a life-threatening situation. Another crossing, another mistake. Despite clear warnings, a heavy truck becomes stuck on the tracks. In seconds, the train arrives, a powerful force against metal and cargo. The collision is catastrophic. The vehicle is destroyed instantly, while the unstoppable locomotive continues on its path. Ignoring every warning, a moment of reckless thinking turns deadly. Whether it's a bus, a trailer, or a heavy truck, nothing can survive against a train. The freight train hits like a thunderbolt. Metal shatters, debris flies, and the vehicle is tossed aside. The rails demand respect. They stopped, they hesitated, and that single moment sealed their fate. From city buses to long-haul trucks, the railway shows no mercy. The massive train slams into the vehicle, tearing it apart. It's a chilling reminder: never stop on the tracks. It's a dangerous gamble. Heavy cargo versus unstoppable momentum. Watch as trucks and buses challenge the railway and lose every time. Metal explodes, debris scatters, and the lesson is clear: when a train is coming, nothing can stop it. A small blue car is completely stuck, directly in the path of an oncoming freight train. The locomotive, painted blue and yellow, is closing in fast. Warning lights flash and the whistle screams, but it's already too late. The train strikes the car with a deafening crash, pushing it aside while barely slowing down. A powerful semi-truck is stuck, helpless against the railway line. The warning signals flash urgently, but there is no time left. The massive freight train arrives like judgment. With a crushing impact, the truck is destroyed instantly. It never stood a chance. The driver makes a critical mistake, leaving a large white tractor trailer blocking the rail line. The freight train is already too close to stop. The horn sounds one final warning before the locomotive crashes into the trailer, ripping it apart and filling the air with debris. A small passenger car is stranded on the tracks, completely unable to move. A fast passenger train rushes toward it. Warnings are useless now. The train slams into the lightweight car, throwing it violently away. Physics wins every time. The train always wins. A terrifying moment unfolds as heavy construction machinery becomes stuck on the tracks. Whether it's a truck or industrial equipment, the railway shows no mercy. The freight train barrels through, leaving chaos, smoke, and twisted steel behind. A fully loaded truck is disabled across the tracks. The gates come down, sealing its fate. Moments later, the freight train smashes into the trailer, tearing it apart and scattering debris everywhere. When a truck meets a train, there is only one outcome. A vehicle is stuck, but the driver reacts quickly. He jumps out and runs to safety just seconds before the train crashes into the empty car. The driver survives, but the vehicle is completely destroyed, a reminder of how close disaster can be. The engine suddenly dies, leaving the vehicle stranded on the tracks. The driver desperately tries to restart it, but nothing works. The train fills the frame, unstoppable. The crash is loud and violent. The train keeps moving, leaving only scrap metal behind. The vehicle sits motionless on the tracks. Then the train appears at full speed. There's no escape. The impact is instant and brutal, turning the car into debris as the train disappears down the line. Ignoring the warnings at an unprotected crossing, the driver tries to beat the train. The timing is wrong. The high-speed train slams into the car, sending it flying. The gamble fails, leaving destruction behind. Metal screams as the vehicle is torn apart in seconds. Debris scatters across the tracks while the train powers through without slowing. Railways offer no mercy. When a vehicle stalls, every second counts. Get out immediately. Even inside city limits, railway rules never change. One small mistake leaves a vehicle stranded. The train crashes into it with explosive force, turning a quiet area into chaos in seconds. Sirens and dust fill the air as a quiet street turns into chaos. City limits don't weaken a train's power. Everywhere the rule is the same. The truck moves too slowly, leaving its long trailer exposed on the tracks. The train arrives like a force of nature, ripping through the trailer. The damage is instant and severe. The vehicle climbs onto the rails and becomes stuck. With the train approaching fast, there's no way out. The locomotive hits hard, destroying the car in seconds and pushing through the wreckage. The driver ignores the signs and risks crossing. The train arrives exactly as scheduled. One violent crash later, the vehicle is gone. Never challenge a train's path. The freight train blasts its horn one last time. The truck is trapped. The impact is earth-shaking, shredding the trailer into pieces. The train hits and keeps moving. From the front of the locomotive, the track is clear until it isn't. Truck after truck ignores the warnings. Logs scatter, trailers collapse, and vehicles are destroyed. The train cannot stop. It moves forward through the chaos, proving one final truth: trains always win. The massive cargo truck was trapped. The crossing gates sealed its fate. The train conductor saw the danger and blasted the horn, desperately trying to signal the inevitable. But the train's inertia is relentless. Thousands of tons cannot stop in time. The locomotive strikes the cargo with a colossal, grinding impact, ripping the trailer to pieces. It's a tragic testament to the raw power of the rails. Steel bends like paper as the collision destroys the truck almost instantly. The train barely slows, proving that once it's moving, there's no second chance. Warning signals exist for a reason. Ignore them, and a crossing becomes a disaster. This incident is a painful reminder for all of us. Two trains were stopped due to a technical issue and people began crossing the tracks to switch trains. But suddenly, a Shatabdi superfast express came rushing through at full speed. In an instant, one man, Mohammed Shahbaz, lost his life and two others were seriously injured. Just a few seconds of hurry cost a precious life. Safety rules exist because lives were lost before and hard lessons were learned the painful way. Ignoring warnings, shortcuts, or basic precautions risks becoming the next heartbreaking headline that others will learn from. A simple, reckless mistake and an unforgettable lesson in physics. Some thoughtless person abandoned a motorcycle right in the path of this oncoming train. An explosion of twisted metal and flying debris that shows the sheer, unforgiving momentum of a locomotive. Watch this. An SUV hauling a trailer gets hopelessly high-centered on the tracks, a driver's nightmare. There's the blaring horn, a flash of motion, and suddenly a deafening boom as the train strikes. The good news, and the only thing that matters, is that the driver reacted fast enough to escape the cabin just moments before the impact. Time stands still as this passenger bus suffers an engine failure, stalling directly on a busy rail crossing. A horrifying predicament. Fortunately, the driver had the sense to evacuate immediately and wait for help from a safe distance. This chilling dashcam footage captures a massive passenger train collision in Hungary. The impact is violent, sending carriages soaring into the air and twisting steel into wreckage. No one would ever want to experience that terrifying journey firsthand. In Mumbai, a terrifying scene. A train fails to slow down, slamming into the terminal buffer, derailing and destroying part of the platform. With the damaged train still grinding forward, panicked passengers are forced to risk their lives. The law of the tracks is simple. Mass dictates victory. When a train meets a semi-truck, the outcome is never in doubt. The locomotive slices through the vehicle like paper, a stark reminder of its unstoppable power. This driver attempts an ill-advised crossing, his trailer getting caught in the process. A fatal error in judgment. Fortunately for him, the train struck only the towed equipment, leaving the driver and the main vehicle intact, but with an expensive lesson learned. A massive, devastating crash in Oklahoma. This high-speed incident resulted in a mountain of wreckage, destroying a staggering 22 tanker cars in the pileup. For any professional truck driver, this is one of the worst possible phone calls to make to your supervisor. Boss, I seem to have lost the trailer to a train. Northern Parana, Brazil, November 2nd, 2022. A pedestrian waits patiently for a long freight train to rumble by. Then, without warning, the entire scene goes wrong. A dozen cars start to peel away from the track, collapsing in a cascade of steel and cargo, tipping dramatically away from the now terrified onlooker. Another victim of terrible timing. This driver strayed onto the tracks, losing his car to the massive locomotive. The silver lining, he managed to save his own life and health. Experience the heart-stopping perspective from the driver's cabin. The train is at speed, closing the distance rapidly, when a truck driver attempts a desperate, foolish risk to cross the tracks ahead. The driver sounds the horn, but the truck continues. The ensuing collision is so visceral, so intense, that you feel the jolt and shockwave as if you were sitting right there in the engineer's seat. This bizarre moment suggests a prank gone terribly wrong, or perhaps just reckless disregard. A girl walks toward the tracks, forcing the train to initiate an emergency stop. It's a very good thing the driver's reaction was fast enough to avoid tragedy. Here is a classic example of hubris and poor judgment. This truck driver lost all his valuable equipment and the attached trailer entirely because of his own foolish, hasty decisions. The signal light is flashing, indicating danger, but with no clear tracks or road, it's truly unclear who this warning signal was supposed to be flashing for. This is a visceral example of why you should never, under any circumstances, take chances or mess with a train. The car is completely destroyed. Thankfully, the driver walked away without injury. São Paulo, October 10th, 2022. Everything appears normal until the structural integrity fails. One by one, the heavy freight cars begin to tip over in succession. The chain reaction derails the train completely, frightening everyone nearby. Thank goodness. Passengers had just managed to evacuate the bus that had become firmly stuck on the tracks. Just moments later, the train arrives and suddenly, the vehicle is obliterated. Foolishly, the SUV driver ignored the flashing lights and drove right past the lowered crossing barrier. The train arrived, and here is the explosive result. Miraculously, everyone inside evacuated just moments before impact. Another preventable disaster. In a moment like this, all you can think is, if only trains could turn, we might have avoided this entirely. A massive truck carrying an excavator became hopelessly stuck on the rails, forcing the entire oncoming train to slam to an emergency stop. A major traffic halt, but thankfully no one was hurt. A massive truck is hopelessly snagged on the tracks and can't be cleared in time. In the seconds following the impact, friction and fuel ignite an inferno. The entire vehicle is consumed in a massive column of smoke and fire, but somehow, miraculously, the driver had the time to escape, and no one was injured in this devastating incident. Imagine the everyday commuter's nightmare. You're calmly riding the subway, looking out the window, when suddenly a gigantic piece of a construction crane detaches. It crashes down, narrowly missing the carriage. The terrified passengers of this train didn't have to imagine this, they lived it. Just like that, in a flash of noise and destruction, someone's vehicle is completely obliterated. Fortunately, the car was empty. The frantic driver even attempted to signal the train operator to stop, but the tremendous momentum of the locomotive made avoidance impossible. Wow, this is an incredibly rare, heart-stopping view. We are seeing a high-speed train collision directly from the cockpit's point of view. What's more shocking, the maintenance workers nearby react with utter indifference, as if a multi-ton locomotive crashing is a daily occurrence. Farewell, pristine scenery, and hopefully this harrowing experience teaches this girl to maintain a much safer distance from the rails. A catastrophic miscalculation. Someone seriously botched the speed at which these carriages were supposed to connect. The slow-motion approach quickly turns into a heavy, bone-jarring impact. A violent crash was simply unavoidable. Another vehicle, a bus this time, becomes hopelessly stuck on the tracks. The oncoming train doesn't even slow down, delivering a devastating blow. Luckily, the vehicle was empty, sparing lives. It's truly frightening to witness the ease with which the immense weight and speed of a train can shear a semi-truck completely in half, leaving behind nothing but scattered wreckage. Pure panic. The desperate driver manages to leap out of his vehicle just seconds before the train slams into it. You can almost feel the wave of despair and shock wash over him through the screen as he realizes the magnitude of what just happened. An unbelievable outcome. It's difficult to comprehend how a small car could survive a collision with a train and remain nearly intact. Luckily, for the car and for the train, the driver had already fled the scene. For anyone needing to clear an obstruction, here's an unorthodox life hack. If you need to quickly remove massive steel beams from the tracks, just send a train straight through them. Who knows, this method might come in handy one day. The train operator frantically engages the emergency brakes, but the massive weight and velocity of the freight train mean it cannot stop in time. The resulting crash is a violent meeting with a gas tanker on the tracks. Such a shame. The truck driver was just moments from clearing the crossing, but the train still clipped the rear end. The force of the blow was so significant that it even caused damage to the adjacent station building. The driver of a car stuck helplessly on the tracks frantically signals the train to stop, a desperate final plea. But the laws of physics are unforgiving, and his signals were in vain. You can't help but feel immense pity for this man. This train, carrying heavy military equipment, met an immovable object. The resulting impact proves that even a train hauling heavy-duty military vehicles simply cannot be stopped by anything less than another immovable force. A rider's nightmare. A motorcycle wheel becomes lodged firmly between the rails. The driver had no choice but to immediately abandon the bike and run, prioritizing life over property. This collision wasn't just an impact. The train hooked the car and violently dragged it along the tracks for a considerable distance. Thank goodness the driver managed to scramble out just seconds before the train arrived. No one, it turns out, is safe from the sheer bad luck of getting their car stuck on the tracks. Not even the police, as demonstrated when this law enforcement vehicle is struck and destroyed by a train. What put the driver in such an incredible rush? He was incredibly lucky that the train only lightly grazed and spun his car around. It could have, and should have, ended so much worse. The truck got stuck on the tracks, was hit by the train, and the force of the collision caused the train itself to violently derail. Let's desperately hope the truck driver was safely clear. Another genius-level parking job. This time, a truck is left abandoned in the wrong spot, right next to the rails. The train impacts it and even gives a slight, surprising little hop after the collision. Who on earth thought it was a good idea to leave a plane resting right next to the tracks? It is absolutely mind-blowing that a train could actually collide with an aircraft. That car is now headed directly for the scrapyard. The only good news is that the quick-thinking driver was safely out of the vehicle in time. Look at the precision! It's almost unbelievable how the train sliced the trailer completely clean, in half a surprisingly precise destruction. It is painfully clear that this driver completely chose the wrong, most treacherous route for their journey. Honestly, it is genuinely surprising how often highly preventable things like this happen on the rails. A huge freight train is moving very fast down the tracks. Ahead, a large box truck is stuck and can't move. The train hits it with incredible force, tearing the truck apart instantly. Sparks fly, and a massive fireball bursts out from the wreck. The train starts to derail, with the first few cars lifting and twisting off the tracks, showing just how powerful these machines are. The lead locomotives and some of the following freight cars are thrown violently off the tracks. The engine flips sideways, scattering debris everywhere. Cargo from the train is thrown into the air, and thick smoke rises as the wreckage piles up. The scene shows how destructive a derailment can be. A large semi-trailer is stuck across the tracks. The train hits it in the middle, cutting the trailer in half. The contents of the trailer are scattered everywhere. Despite the impact, the massive train engine keeps moving forward, showing how much force it carries. This clip highlights how dangerous it is to misjudge time or distance. A camera captures a high-speed train approaching a car that tries to cross too late. The train hits the car almost immediately, tearing it apart. Only broken pieces are left behind, showing the enormous power of the locomotive. Inside a rail yard, a mistake with a track switch or a small defect causes freight cars to leave the rails. They slowly tip over to the side, creating a big mess. Safety is critical, even in controlled areas like rail yards. A freight train crashes into heavy construction machinery stuck on the tracks. The impact is sudden and violent, sending debris flying. In this case, the train's engine avoids a direct hit, preventing a total disaster. This footage shows how dangerous it is when large machinery blocks railway lines. A truck tries to cross the tracks but is hit by a fast-moving train. The locomotive tears through the truck's cab, scattering pieces everywhere. The power of the train is shocking, and this scene clearly demonstrates the risks of ignoring crossing warnings and signals. A freight train derails on a straight stretch of track. Friction and impact cause flames to rise high around the wrecked cars. The fiery scene is terrifying and highlights how some cargo can be extremely dangerous when involved in an accident. Train safety and speed control are crucial to prevent such incidents. A camera captures a train leaving the tracks from a very close perspective. The cars bend and fold as the train derails. The energy of the crash is intense and frightening, proving why a safe distance must always be kept around train tracks, especially during operations or filming. A large truck gets stuck while trying to cross a railway line. The train is approaching, and despite the truck's struggle, it can't move in time. This clip emphasizes the dangers of trucks getting caught on raised crossings or uneven surfaces, which can quickly lead to disaster if a train is near. When trains carry very long or heavy cargo, handling it improperly can cause loads to shift and tip over. This clip shows how a mismanaged or unsecured load can lead to accidents, making the train cars dangerous both on the tracks and nearby. A truck becomes trapped on the tracks, and the train strikes it, dragging it along the rails. The collision makes the accident even worse, scattering debris and increasing destruction. This footage is a warning about the consequences of not clearing the tracks immediately when stuck. A train moving faster than 150 kilometers per hour derails violently. The cars break apart, sending debris everywhere. The high speed makes the wreck even worse, showing how velocity greatly increases the risk of catastrophic accidents on rail lines. A person is seen using the train tracks in an unusual way, possibly moving goods or taking a shortcut. Even a simple action like this can turn ordinary tasks into extremely dangerous situations, as trains cannot stop quickly to avoid obstacles. Footage shows how impatient drivers trying to cross tracks often cause accidents. Even a few seconds of hesitation or poor judgment can lead to catastrophic collisions with trains, highlighting the importance of following all crossing signals and signs. A train breaks down on the track, forcing passengers to evacuate. Moments later, a second train arrives and crashes into the stationary train. What started as a small delay turns into a serious incident, emphasizing the importance of communication. Videos capture drivers making careless or unsafe decisions near railroad tracks. Ignoring rules or taking risks around trains can have deadly consequences. These clips remind everyone to be vigilant and respect train crossings at all times. A high-speed train navigates a busy and complicated rail junction. Excessive speed makes the situation very dangerous, increasing the risk of derailment or collision. Proper speed control and attention are vital to avoid accidents in such areas. Transporting extremely large items like a windmill blade requires precise planning to ensure it does not hit trackside obstacles. This footage shows the challenges involved in moving massive cargo on railways, highlighting the need for careful measurements and coordination. A truck is stuck on the tracks, but the driver abandons it just in time as the train approaches. Choosing to prioritize personal safety can save lives, even if the vehicle is destroyed. This clip shows the importance of acting quickly in emergencies. A train collides with a bus on the tracks. The impact is devastating, showing how quickly a dangerous situation can become life-threatening when large passenger vehicles fail to clear crossings. A driver narrowly avoids a train by escaping from their vehicle at the last moment. This footage shows how split-second decisions can mean the difference between life and death near train tracks. A sedan is left on the tracks too long, unable to move. Despite a small chance to clear it, the train hits, showing how even small vehicles can be completely destroyed if they block a train's path. Footage shows cars crossing tracks despite warning lights in places like Mexico. Ignoring these signals often leads to dangerous accidents, underlining the importance of obeying all railway crossing signs for safety. A train hits a semi-truck. While semi-trucks can overpower smaller vehicles, trains are almost unstoppable. This clip highlights that no matter how large or heavy a truck is, a train carries far more force and dominates in collisions. A driver or pedestrian panics as a train approaches too quickly. Sudden fear and unpreparedness can make situations much worse, showing why awareness and calm reactions near tracks are essential. After a big crash, the wreckage is extensive and repairs are costly. Taxpayers often pay for the damage, showing how accidents not only endanger lives, but also create economic consequences for communities. A series of train crashes are shown, each more chaotic than the last. The high-speed destruction is almost like watching a disaster unfold in fast motion, demonstrating the massive forces trains carry and the danger of mistakes. Despite chaotic wrecks, rail workers and engineers remain calm, inspecting crash sites and managing emergencies. Their composure and training prevent further accidents and show how professional response is critical during disasters. This clip is a strong warning about the risks of crossing railroad tracks without paying attention to signals and timing.